Okay, the session is put on record. Right, and here comes your screen. I hope the screen is visible to all of you. Right. Okay, now as you know that this is my 7th class, right? In the 8th class, I'm supposed to take your exam, the midterm exam, but I really have to decide how to conduct it. And I really have to decide if I'm conducting it in my next class, which would be on Monday, right? Your next class would be too soon. So let's see what can be done. Also, I cannot clearly figure out from where did I leave your lecture. So I have chosen a new topic, but I'll continue with Petla, whose mic is on. Buff, please keep your mic mute. Okay, so let me decide and we can also discuss about your online midterm, right? What idea right now I have is I'll give you a question paper that you will solve by typing. I hope all your laptops are in place, and I do not assume that some of you do not know how to work with Word, right? So I might give you a question paper online, you will be solving it, and at the time when it's time to end the paper, you will email it to me in soft. Okay, this is one of the ideas, but we will think about it. And as I've already told you that I am not resuming from the topic that I left back in December. I need to discuss it with your CR. Someone's home noises, I'm listening. Sobia, Najma. Yeah, act like adults. Once you are told how do you conduct yourself in Zoom? Why do I have to tell this again and again? I don't do this with my undergrad students. I just told them once, how does LMS work? How does this Zoom work? And we are working fine with it. I've been teaching them on Zoom since 3 weeks now. I never have these problems that I'm having with you now. Sobia, Khalid, Najma. Keep checking that your mics are off at all times. See, this is such a distraction for the continuity of the lecture. This disrupts my lecture.
Unmute. Is it mute?
Okay, I'll keep checking on your chats also. I've given you a question. Bhaft is unable to hear me. Now there can be several problems in the lecture. The problems and issues that I can solve are the problems that are at my end. But this internet connectivity issue, or if you're, excuse me, if you're unable to hear me, then there are issues at your end. You need to fix it, okay? What I can do for you is I have put it on the recording. If at any time you get disconnected for 5-10 minutes, you will get the recording by evening on your LMS, right? Okay, now I have put a question and I did not get any of the answers on chat. Now get to your chat and tell me why language is a feminist issue. Okay, I'm putting it again. Just check your, there are several things. Okay, I've told you that there you can see the list of the participants. Also you have your mics, then you have your what else, you can raise your hands, you can have your videos also, which we do not need, and then you have your chat section also. So I'll be taking your feedback and your answers, and I'll make the class interactive through 2 ways. Okay, I'll either ask you to put it on the chat or I'll ask you to raise your hand and answer me. Now, why language is a feminist issue? Quickly reflect on this. Okay, who else? I don't know if you have all come read or you just have come here. I don't think anyone wants to answer this or you have even read this. Anyway, let's move on. Okay. We'll connect how language is a feminist issue, right? How language and discourses become political. This is all what we are going to discuss in today's session. Language is being used, Rabia says. Yes, Rabia is close, Rabia is close. That's a good answer. Okay, now today we are going to start with another field of critical discourse analysis, okay, which is called as FCDA, Feminist Critical Discourse Analysis, right? Now, what is feminist critical discourse analysis has everything to do with critical discourse analysis, right? Like critical discourse analysis deals with discourses, with political discourses. They have a certain aim. Basically their aim is to question, their aim is to challenge this existing status quo. Now, when we talk about CDA, we are talking about many aspects and many political discourses simultaneously. But how do we separate and differentiate between FCDA and CDA? Because CDA only talks about gendered discourses, okay? Discourses related to gender inequality, or discourses that show both genders to be in a position where one is subordinated to the other, right? So FCDA actually challenges those discourses, right? Let me get to the chat. Perhaps there are some answers. Okay, there are some answers from Humaira and Sadia. Language is a feminist issue. It makes social order. Okay, we are going to talk about this special social order. Social order, there can be a number of social orders in the society. Okay, there can be social order according to the race. There can be a social order according to the status. And there can be social order according to the gender, right? So basically FCDA talks about a special kind of a social order which is related to gender, okay? When we say that something is placed in order, That means one thing is superior, the other is inferior to the first one, okay? Or one thing is subordinate to the other one, okay? So they are not equal, but there is some order. Someone is privileged than the other one, okay? So Humaira is right. We are going to talk about the labels also, and the common perception of people. We are going to talk about patriarchy as a system, as a social system. Then Sadia says, not women issues. I mean, not exactly, but yes, women as women in FCDA takes women as marginalized population. Okay, someone who are at the margins, and someone whose status needs to be improved, right? Someone whose status quo needs to be questioned. Okay, that's right. And then we are, of course, we are going to talk about the negative labels as Humaira says it, and this is how we are going to move forward. Anyway, students are getting disconnected again and again. I'm trying to admit you, but one thing is when we share a screen, I don't get to know who is in the waiting. Okay, so sometimes I might not allow you for the second time because you're not, you stop to be visible to me on my screen, right? Okay, anyway, let's go to its proper definition. Now, feminist critical discourse analysis is a theoretical framework of critical discourse analysis. It is also a method of analysis. So my lecture would be in two parts. We will look at FCDA as a theoretical framework, and we will also look at CDA as Mariam Shah, please mute yourself. Right? So we are going to look at FCD as a theoretical framework. We are also going to look at FCDA as an analytical framework, right? Now let's move towards a proper definition of FCDA and what does it do, what its concern, what are its aims, what are its objectives. All of this we are going to discuss in today's class. Now, who is the theorist of feminist critical discourse analysis? Who's the theorist? Quickly tell me. Go to your chart and just write one name quickly. Just not two students. I'm not teaching two students in my class. Quickly name it. Quickly. Who is the theorist? Who is the theorist of FCDA? Your class remains unaffected with whatever goes in the world. You are just the same people I left you in December. Who is the theorist? Yes. Okay, it's Samara's responsibility to study for all of you. Since she is the CR, she has more responsibilities. She needs to study more. Yes, Lazar is the theorist. Okay, and the book that I have sent you is by Lazar, and most of the things that you find as far as the research on FCD is concerned is by Lazar. People have used her framework actually. So this feminist critical discourse analysis comes from Lazar. Now, what is this feminist critical discourse analysis? As in CDA, CDA is also a political perspective, right? So feminist CDA is again a political perspective on gender, right? Otherwise, CDA is a political perspective on discourses. FCDA is a political perspective on gendered discourses. It does not look at other discourses. Other political discourses, maybe the discourses are the racist discourses or Marxist discourses or any other kind of discourses. FCDA has nothing to do with those. Okay, it only focuses on feminist or gender discourses, right? Now, feminism itself is debatable. We are going to discuss that also, right? There have been waves of feminism, and there people are, some people are feminist, some people are not feminist, and it is not necessary that all women would be feminist. And there are varied definition of feminism, and feminism now has become a perspective which is varied from one person to another. Okay, so feminist CDA is a political perspective on gender, right? As CDA works with discourse, power, and ideology. Okay, broadly speaking, whatever CDA is, it is, whether it's the Venn framework, or we are working with the Fairclough framework, or we are talking about in terms of Foucault. So they have all talked about ideology, they have all talked about power, they have all talked about these in discourses. So when we talk about FCDA, we are talking about gender discourses, and what do we try to demystify? What do we try to find out? What do we try to bring forth to the front, which is implicit in these discourses, is the power play. Okay, a power play between the genders, right? And we talk about ideologies, the social ideologies related to the gender. So FCDA, what do we do in FCDA? We try to demystify the presence of power relationship in gender discourses. We try to demystify, make implicit things explicit about the ideologies, social ideologies about genders. Okay. And of course, since we are dealing with critical discourse analysis, so we look at these in discourses, right? Now, when we say that gender discourses, there is a presence of gender discourses, we mean that this inequality that needs to be demystified, right? The power play in gender discourses, that means it is present in text and talk. When we say that there are gendered ideologies, there is gender power play, and there is inequality within the discourses, we mean that these can be found both in text and talk. Okay. I'll show you a picture also. And when we talk about text, it's just not the written text. It also includes pictures, right? So FCD is basically multimodal. I don't know if we have done this term of multimodality. Do you have any idea of multimodality? Get to your chat. Do you have any idea of multimodality? Okay, one more thing is, of course, Google is at your hand. Whenever I ask you a question, do not try to Google, right? Copy paste, I can figure out if you are copy pasting things on the chat. Do not do that. Okay, what is multimodality? Who has an idea? What is multimodal? If Umaira is not typing the answer, I can move on with my lecture. Umaira, should I wait for your answer and should I move on? Anyway, so basically, we talk about CD in terms of multimodality also. Some of the frameworks of CD are multimodal, okay? Now, if I try to explain to you what is multimodality or what is multimodal analysis, when we talk about discourses, right, we mean text and talk. When we take it a little further, we are talking about multimodality in which we add pictures, paintings, colors, videos, audios, everything. If we get time during this course, I'll teach you how to analyze websites through CDA. Now, what happens while we are applying CDA on the websites? Your website is a multimodal site, okay? You have pictures in there, and then you have audios in there, you have videos on there, you have text in there, and there are themes of a website. A website is usually colorful. Okay, there are logos in there. For instance, BBC's, if you go to BBC's website, it has a particular logo. Even if you do not know what site is it, the colors would tell you that this is a BBC site. Okay, the red and the white colors. Okay. Okay, we got just two answers. Yeah, fine. From Mariam Shahnumar. Yes. Yeah, if we have not touched upon multimodality previously, so these answers are read up for me, right? So this is what is multimodality, right? So in FCDA also we follow a multimodal framework. We can work with the pictures also. Let me show you a picture. If I can screen share a picture, just keep that in mind, and then we can move forward from here. Okay, let me show you a picture. Okay. Yes, here it is. Now look at this. Okay, I don't know if the text is visible to you. Let me make it a little here. But what I want you to do is to look at this picture and see how roles are divided in the society. This is a businessman, happens to be a man. Okay, so he needs to travel. He calls someone to bring his tickets, right? And then he catches the flight. This is what the picture tells you, right? He catches the flight, and he's lying, reclining on a very comfortable seat. Okay, so this is the role through the pictures that is shown to you. If you see this one, this is a lady in the office who knocks the door and brings the ticket. He asks for the tickets, and the man asks for the tickets, the lady brings the tickets. Okay, as you're seeing in the picture. Now what happens, the same man gets the ticket from this lady, right? He reaches the airplane where he reclines on a comfortable seat, right? He looks tired. The man who is working is tired. This lady is also shown to be working. Of course, she has brought the tickets, so she's also working, right? Delivering the tickets to the people or taking the bookings or whatever she's doing. but she is also working. She's not shown tired. Okay, she's shown smiling. Now that shows you the expectation of the society. Okay, it's only the text. I've sent you the text also. You'll find this in Sarah Mill's book, Feminist Stylistics. But just for today's class, what I want you to know is, even through the pictures, the society tells you the expectations from the two genders, which are very, very different, despite the fact that they might be doing the same thing. They might be working in similar conditions also, and they might be doing the same jobs. By the way, it also tells you what kind of jobs are given to men and women. Women serving men. Okay, he looks tired, she needs to smile all the time. That is what is expected of her, right? Now in the second picture, you see the man taking rest because he happens to be tired. Okay, so another lady gets in and she's again serving him as an air hostess. Again, look at this face. She's required to smile, right? She's on job also. Air hostess, of course, it's a job, right? Delivering is also a job. Okay, booking tickets is also a job, right? But you will see the difference. Now look at the text. Transatlantic business traveler. It's an ad of perhaps of an airline. Okay, transatlantic business traveler deserves the quiet comfort of TWA's ambassador class. Now, who deserves the comfort? The business traveler. Traveler is, it's a neutral term. We do not get to know who's the traveler, men or the women. Now, this ad is multimodal in itself. Through the picture, it tells us then that man does the business. There are only businessmen. There are no businesswomen, right? And it's the man who travels. Travelers are usually men. It's not the women who would travel, okay? Who might afford to travel, or who should travel, or who can travel. You can put any of the modal auxiliaries here, right? So how men is shown in the picture and how women is shown in the picture, right? So by business traveler, if we have any little doubt that it might be a woman, the picture tells you that it's not the women, okay? And then who deserves the quiet comfort? Not this woman who's working, not this woman who's working, but the one who deserves the comfort is having discomfort. Got it? So just keep this picture in mind. This is a picture for the multimodal analysis. Also, it is multimodal. There are so many things. Now, this picture comes to us as black and white because of the printing of the book. Otherwise, perhaps most of the ads are colorful these days. You can see this airplane also, okay? And this writing would be, the text would be more visible to you once you open these on your own gadgets, right? The writing is very small, but there is a lot in the text also. I have just, roughly analyzed the pictures for you right now. Otherwise, there is a lot more in the text as well. So this is one of the example of gender text. Okay. If we take the example from our own advertisements in the print media, you must have seen the advertisements of the electronics, which are directly related to dowry. Okay, so there is no concept of buying electronics when it is not about dowry, right? So we directly connect advertisements directly connect dowry to electronics. Okay, do you remember any other ads? I would like you to raise hands. Yes, let's go to Humaira. Humaira, I'm unmuting you, okay? Okay. Yes, Humaira.
Yes, ma'am. That no, the advertisement of Orient fridge, when the man, he is saying that if the girl is having this fridge for her for life after marriage, so that is also related to dowry.
Yeah, electronics directly related to dowry. Okay. Any other examples that are gender discourses in advertisements? There are so many. Okay. Anyone else who wants to speak about gender discourses in advertisements? There are so many. Yes, Simon, do you want to say something about gender discourses in advertisements? Think what's happening around you. Humaira, do you want to say something more? Your hand is raised.
Ma'am, most of the advertisement, like we have advertisement of that Max bar, and a lot of other these advertisement, it contain gender discourses and related to dowry. We have examples of that Max bar. We have example of that kheer which is made by Bahu. That also contain gender discourse. So there are many
Yes,
examples.
yes, true that. Let's go to Simon. Simon's raising her hand. Yes, Simon, you may unmute yourself. Yes, Simon. I don't know if Simon wants to say something or just you should know she's just trying Zoom right now. Okay. Any other than dowry, other than electronics that we have given the example of other commodities also? Okay,
Yes,
Simon's here.
yes, ma'am. I want to say something.
Yes,
Ma'am,
Simon.
even the shaving gel ads for shaving gel cream, they need women
Yes.
to wear, and the
Yes.
perfumes and body sprays. I remember there was an ad of body spray. As the man uses that spray, all the women starts running behind him.
Yes.
This is how the
Yeah.
advertisements are using women and misusing women, and they are showing us how women are, you know, uh, how women are running behind men and always dependent on men and wants to be lifted by the men.
Yes. Exactly. That's a very good point. See, when in the men products where the women is not using that commodity, then also we see women around. Okay. Um, Women are after the men. Okay, men do not need women, it's the women who need men, right? So this is mere exploitation of the women also. For instance, in shaving gel, in the advertisements of bikes, you would see a woman. So women is used as object, right? This is the objectification of women. By the way, objectification is another, is another theoretical perspective of feminism, objectification of women. And I have a paper related to this also, and we'll share. Humaira, do you want to say something? Okay, yes, Humaira.
Ma'am, whitening creams. These are advertisement in which
Exactly.
the woman
I
is
was
considered as a object of beauty.
Mhm.
So that is
Yes.
also yeah, we can say contain a gender discourses. Why woman is considered a sign of beauty? Why not men? Mostly the whitening creams, these advertisement, women are there and they are acting that these whitening creams are very important for women because they are the object of beauty. They have to satisfy all the people around her.
Right. I was waiting for this answer. That is why I asked you for naming some other products. That's wonderful. Yes, Amma, do you want to say something? You can unmute.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, there are also few ads which show that women are has money. They don't want an spiritual relationship. They just want a materialistic relationship, like ads of cars, etc.
Yes, yes. As men is shown to be after beauty, women are shown to be after money. So that goes both ways. But getting back to these fairness creams, okay. Lately, you might have witnessed in the media there were news of unrest in America. There were a number of protests against racism. What happened there? Is anyone updated on that? The racist issues, which were then linked to whiteness and whitening creams too, and the difference between the blacks and the whites. Yes, Saima.
Yes, ma'am. The recent death of George Floyd and all the protest against racism and all this is connected to this. And even there are many people the rights of the blacks, and they are saying that these are the people who are not, speaking for their rights but destroying the public property. They don't care about their feelings and emotions, but they are taking care of the public property and criticizing them. This also shows racism.
Yes. Now, how do we connect this Floyd episode with racism? Because when this was seen in detail, the protests that were going on. Okay, people, I have seen that you have replied in the chat also. I'll look at those answers, but let me continue with what we are discussing right now with reference to George Floyd. Now, this latest incident in America, which led to a lot of unrest, and there were protests nationwide in United States of America, when a black man was killed because of police brutality, right? Um, when we see the news in detail, the man happened to be a criminal, and he was in and out of the jail also. But the thing is, he was killed ruthlessly in cold blood, okay, very cruelly, brutally by police. Okay, this was what the black protested against. Now, this also led to the general standards of people, and this also the use of fairness creams or these beauty products also came under discussion, that why someone who's white or someone who's fair skin is considered to be beautiful. Okay, so who has set this standard? Why black cannot be beautiful? Why our children, or why everyone since childhood is told that white is beautiful? Why um, women would look for a fairer girl for their son, sisters would look for a fairer bride for their brother? This is the first criteria. Then height comes after this, the family, education, everything. But for the first thing that usually people are looking for, even men, if they themselves are selecting women, so the first thing they are probably looking for is the fairness. This is why uh, the business of fairness cream is going so well, right? This is why the cosmetic market is booming, right? So it is about what we need to understand is the mindset, is the ideology of the society. Okay. And this is supportive of the business. Ideologies are just not formed without a reason. They are supporting other ideologies. Everything gets interconnected. Okay. So the advertisement that I've shown you has nothing to do with the skin colors. It had to do with the work. Okay. Now we have also discussed the the beauty standards for a woman, and which are different from that of the man. Man is not supposed to use cosmetics because he's supposed to be rough and tough, right? Which is not the case with women, right? So the expectations with both genders, despite that they are humans, is different by the society. And this is what the ideology we are going to talk about in feminist critical discourse analysis. Okay, let me read some of the answers in the chat. Guys, when I ask you to reply in the chat, reply in the chat. When I ask you to, discuss verbally, you can raise your hands. Yes, cooking oil के advertisements होते इस तरह के, like they give you the expectations from a married woman who's supposed to take care of the whole family, not just the husband, but husband's parents, his family. Okay, right? It should be her top priority. For instance, in this cooking oil advertisement, what do we see in Ramzan? And this happens, this is a common sight. It's just not the advertisements, but since these advertisements, of course, this media is a strong medium, so these give you the expectations from a woman by a society. What is the criteria of a good daughter-in-law? Okay, so you can see you get the answer of who is a good daughter-in-law in these oil advertisements. Everyone is sitting at the iftar time, and this women is shown in the kitchen. Just not the women, her small daughter is not at the dining table with the rest of the family. You will see most of the men at the dining table, and even little boys, okay, who are not giving a helping hand in the kitchen. This is the usual practice in the Asian families. We all know this, okay? And this is perpetuated, and such ideologies actually are reconstructed through these discourses. Now, what happens in these oil advertisement, this gives you the criteria. जैसे electronics आप gives you a criteria of dowry, what you should give to your daughter, okay, at the time of a wedding. What are the expectations? What are the social expectations? So the media tells you about the new products, about how can you make life easier of your daughter after the marriage, okay? And we are just discussing one medium. Advertisement is one medium, okay? In print and in electronic, there are a number of other mediums that are bombarding us with the ideologies, okay? And I also told you that these are not static. We are going to study that too, that these are not static. Ideologies keep on changing. It takes a number of years. So you must have seen some of the ads with changing ideologies. I would like you to reflect on what are the changing ads now that we have been seeing ads. I don't know which decade were you born in, but if you have seen the ads of 90s, then 2000 and 2010 beyond, so we see a little change in the ads, okay? How is it happening? Reflect on this. By that time, I like to read some messages. Bakht is saying she's getting disconnected. Let me check if she's again there. Okay, guys, you need to. I think you are away from the cities. You might be having these problems. So for this reason, the lecture is on record. Okay. But whenever it is feasible for you to attend the lecture, this would be good, right? Because we'll try to manage your attendance also. Omera, please do one thing. At the end of the lecture, take the picture of the participants. Okay. That becomes a little debatable also, because people keep on getting disconnected too, but we will try. Humera is looking at the participants. If for some reason you get disconnected, that's fine. Okay. Now we need to maintain the attendance also. And of course, wherever you are, you should be there for the midterm. Make some arrangements. Okay, we'll try not to be online all the time during the midterm. We are looking at different methods. Right? Me Google how to conduct an exam, online exam. You can always send me ideas, right? Yeah, you can email me. How do you think you should be tested for your midterms? And we will do that. So this problem is going to remain with us, because people are at different places in Balochistan where they do not have access to these online classes. So for them, we are recording the classes. At least I'll be recording the whole sessions. So you'll get, you will have the discussion also, and you will have the chat answers also, because you get the whole file through Zoom recording, right? Okay. Till you are working with changing of the ideologies, let me read some of your advertisements. Okay, Sadia is saying tea advertisements. Yes, the household chores are supposed to be, women's work, and we see this being the reinforced through the advertisements. Fair and Lovely creams, close-up toothpaste. Close-up toothpaste, a feminist issue. Okay. Okay, so these are the answers. Okay, Mara has already taken the picture of the participants. Right. Now you may raise hands about if you have any idea about how these ideologies are changing. Okay. Yes, Omera, unmute yourself.
Ma'am, firstly, I want to share the example of that Talo Banaspati. Back a few years back, it was Amma talo mein pakao, hame talo mein pakao, hame sehatmand banao. That was the like a slogan for that. Nowadays, it become changing. Like this talo banaspati is healthy for everyone. The Amma, the line of Amma is now it is like discarded. Now these words are using. So it is also, we can say, the changing of ideologies. Firstly, it was saying that only Amma is there to make all the people healthy. Now they are saying talo is also playing its role in making everyone healthy. So I think this is also the discourse change. So the ideology become changed.
Okay, right. Yes, Sama.
Ma'am, the new advertisement of Fair and Lovely, that is also about the change of the ideology. When the father of the girl ask her that you have to get married, and she says that when why before marriage has to make his own home and has to get a job, why not a girl? Let me first say, get a good job and make my own house, and then I'll decide to marry. This is how ideologies are being changed, and the father of that girl becomes happy and happily kissed her forehead. And ma'am, the result of the CSS exam and how the people are, commenting or replying, or what are their opinion about that, that also tells how ideologies are being changed. There are five sisters, I think she sisters. The fifth one, the fifth one allocated this year. The girl of the father
Yeah.
of those sisters tells BBC that BBC says that they tried to talk to their father, and his phone was going busy for 2 hours. When they get connected to him, he says that these were those people who cursed me on the birth of my fifth daughter. Now they are congratulating me. This is how the ideologies are changing. But this, doesn't happen within few years. That this takes decades to change the ideologies.
Yes, exactly. Yes, Beth want to say something. Yes, Beth, unmute yourself. Beth, do you want to say something, or you're just raising your hand? Okay, yes, Mariam Shah. You want to speak, Mariam? Okay, I'm unmuting you. Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
Mariam.
Ma'am, the ideology behind beauty creams before it was only for women, as it was fair and lovely.
Mm-hmm.
But now it is also for men, as it is belongs to
Ma'am,
men. It is like fair and handsome.
are you
Yes. Okay, Mariam, I'm muting you. Beth, are you saying something? Or let me move on. Beth has real connectivity issues this time. Anyway, okay. Now we are seeing this changing of ideologies in the change of discourses. Of course, when the discourse would change, the ideologies would change, right? Now, how do we see in advertisement that the discourses are changing? We see that there are advertisements. For instance, Lemon Max is there, where a husband is seen helping the wife in doing the dishes. Okay, we see men, not very often, but they are helping the women. Okay, and the example that Saima has given, it's a very encouraging discourse in the sense that the marriage of these five sisters was not discussed in the media, and we do not know how many of them are married. But my mother asked this question. Okay, when I shared the news that there are five sisters who have done their CSS, so the first question that my mother asked, because um, we remain with the previous ideology also. So whatever a girl does, but marriage remains essential for her, and that remains a question and a concern for the society. So, but it was really an encouraging discourse, and it was an ideology changing discourse in the sense that I did not find BBC asking them this question, or any of the other journalists who interviewed the father, or the articles that were published about the daughters. No one asked about their marriage. But the comments that I read on the Facebook, even by the girls, was that they are very pretty. The sisters are very pretty. So see, their achievement was discussed. This was good. They were asked about and they were congratulated about what they achieved as a family, as an individuals, as citizens. But what women noticed, and of course, when women noticed this, men must have noticed this also. So while I was reading the comments on the Facebook, there were comments like one of them looked like Katrina Kaif, and they're very beautiful, they are stylish, and this discourse went along with their accomplished discourse, or discourse of accomplishment. So uh, as a society, we, to an extent, we were not able to separate the two, what they have done, and what is the expectations from the gender, and how their gender should be talked about. The women gender should be talked about in terms of beauty, okay, in terms of fairness, in terms of looks, right? So we did not leave them, even whatever they achieved as sisters. But this, what was good in the media coverage, that professionally it wasn't talked about. Casually, people stayed the same, and people remained persistent with their ideologies. Okay. Now, getting back to our slides. Now, always remember, advertisement is just one section of the media. There are so many other things that are happening. There are dramas also. Just keep on reflecting. There would be gendered plays. Okay, there are movies also. Uh, there are discourses in the form of text also. There are articles also. There are paintings too. There are photographs as well. Right? So these are just very few examples, but lot of more things are happening. Okay, now let's get back to our slides. Okay, just a while. Here we go. Okay, so here are the slides. Someone is saying something in the chat. Let me check once. Okay, Mariam, you have already talked about what you have written. Anyway. Okay, so we were talking about the formal definitions as given by Lazar, and we have discussed what is demystifying and what is the relationship between gender, power, and ideology. The picture that I've shown you shows you gender, okay, the two genders that are shown. It shows you power also. It tells you that man does superior kind of jobs in the society. The man does business and the women are the hostess. Okay. And it also, the picture also reflected the ideology, our expectations, what is acceptable to us through the advertisements. Okay. And interestingly, the advertisement is not of PIA. It's not of an airline in Asia. It's a foreign airline, right? So this patriarchal system, broadly speaking, FCDA talks about patriarchy. Whatever we are talking about is the result of patriarchy, right? The standards of women's beauty, who would decide? Okay, it's the patriarchal system, that it's the right of the men or the men's family to determine the right girl, the beautiful girl, the standards of beauty, right? Who decides what jobs can be done by the women? Okay. Who are the heads of most of the offices of the corporate sector, right? There are rarely business women. So it is not just these gender discourses are just not the issue of Asia or of the third world countries. Similar things are going on in the US, in the European countries also. For instance, we just started about women march, and I am dead sure so many of you, how many participants we have right now? We are with 25 participants, right? Matlab 20 to aram se were against this women march. I do not doubt about it. Okay, and it became so much debatable, maybe for the right or for the wrong reasons. And one of the popular slogans was Khana khud garam kar lo. This is what we were talking about in the advertisements also, and about the changing things, right? So in the West is of course ahead of us. So they asked for voting rights. Women there asked for the voting rights. Women asked for equal salaries there, which these debates have not yet started in this part of the world, basically. we do not, debate about it. These are not our concern up till now, but we expect that we would be debating on the core issues. These are little issues, whatever happens at homes, the work distribution that we really appreciate as a society, which is thought to be very, very fair, men working outside, women raising the families and staying inside. And this is very much appreciated in our societies, because we have a different kind of social system than the West. So we have not, since our women folk is not in the workforce, okay, a large percentage of women are still not in the workforce. For instance, most of our mothers are housewives. Rarely they worked outside their homes. So the serious issues, workplace harassment, issues related to working women, their pay security, their equal salaries at the same positions, is yet not our debate. These are the serious issues basically, okay? They start from homes, but the things that need to be discussed were not discussed in the Aurat March, or when these so-called feminists, Pakistani feminists go for a protest, they do not talk about these serious kind of issues which needs to be addressed. But of course, since we are developing, the West has already developed. So when we are going to face these problems, when women would be equally educated, as many women would be educated as men, they would be competing men for the same positions would be open for the women, then such a debate can be done. Till then, we'll be focusing on little issues related to women, right? But since I've already told you that CDA is more in CDA as an academic branch, excuse me, CDA as an academic branch is more studied, is more practiced in the West. Okay, we are just beginning to question things. We have not learned to question actually. You must have seen our education system also, which is teacher centered. Right now, the online classes that also teacher centered, but that's the popular system where we do not teach our children to question. Okay, they obey whatever is told to them, and we are also told that there are things that cannot be questioned, like culture cannot be questioned, like religion cannot be questioned, like elders cannot be questioned, many of the ideologies cannot be questioned. Okay, explicitly or implicitly we are trained not to question, right? And CDA is all about questioning. Okay, so CDA, the development of CDA would take like some more decades in this part of the world, when people would start questioning. Okay, and it is said that it has started to happen during this government, because PTI has one thing is that PTI is a political party of the youngsters. Many of the youngsters are its members, and then they are actually taught to question the inequality in the society. Why someone would break the queue? Okay, if everyone is in the queue for something, no one should break the queue for any reason. And lately you perhaps have seen the very popular episode of Colonel Ki Biwi, right? So why did it become popular? Because people have started to question it, and social media helps them to do that, right? Anything that is seen to be unjust for the people, that comes up, that pops up in the social media, right? So with the help of technology, with the help of expanding media, people have learned to questioned now. Okay, yes, defense budget is also questioned. So now people have started, there might be a realization, or you know, in CDA we say that uh, discourses go unnoticed because things are taken for granted, right? Why patriarchy is not questioned for like centuries and centuries? Okay, because that was taken for granted. We have absorbed it. We have, when people, especially when subjugated people accept that what is happening to them is a matter of destiny, they start taking things for granted, and they go with it. Okay, they stop questioning. They don't even notice that something wrong is happening. So until and unless people realize that there is inequality, until and unless, as far as feminist critical discourse analysis is concerned, until and unless women wouldn't think that they are not being treated equal, uh, they would not challenge the status quo. They will not question. Now, see, there are a number of posts, and if you have a questioning mind, and if you can correctly reflect on what's going on, they say that women is the queen of the house, right? From morning till evening, she is serving people. So, is this what the queen does, right? So through the discourse, they are told that everything belongs to them, but actually nothing belongs to them. Okay, Simon wants to say something. Simon wants to add something. Yes, Simon.
Ma'am, especially the PAs of the bosses, they should be female, and they are considered to be the property of their bosses, as they have to dress according to the will of their dresses, bosses, and they have to maintain their beauty and makeup. This is also this is also something which the women should question. And ma'am, I also wanted to add something about women march in Pakistan. They were
Yes.
showing solidarity with African women speaking against female genital mutilation or cutting, which does not happen in Pakistan. But they were not representing the real problems of the women of Pakistan. They were asking for the rights of abortion, but they didn't know that there are not hospitals available in the rural areas of Pakistan. And women face problem during labor, and they even become they even die at that time.
Yes.
And for abortion, first hospitals are needed. If there are not hospital, then how a woman can abort his children?
Yeah, that's
And
right.
ma'am, about and ma'am, one thing about budget, we all know that no one's privacy is safe in Pakistan. WhatsApp, Facebooks, everything, and our data can easily be traced by the government. As you mentioned, that people are questioning. Uh, it was considered as a taboo to speak about army, but these days everyone is openly, condemning the budget, and openly speaking about, against the army. This is how discourses are these days changing, and hope will result in something positive for everyone.
Yes. These are larger problems. I told you that, starting from ads like Fair and Lovely or oil, or women staying at home and taking care of children, and they are really appreciated. They are said to be the ideal women who are doing this. There are bigger problems. There are problems related to right of women over her own body. Okay, even this is not given to the Pakistani women. You must have seen them, as Sam has referred to this issue of abortion, whether the women has the right to abortion or not. It's just not abortion for that matter. It's about control over her own body. She does not have control over her own body. Someone else, some other gender is controlling. Okay, so these are the larger issues and even the basic ones, right? But it's really easy to change. It's not even that is not easy to change the standards of beauty, to change the discourse in the advertisements, to talk against dowry through the advertisement, because there are advertisements also where the to be groom says that it would be his family, his house, and he's responsible to arrange all the things, and the father is not supposed to buy dowry for the daughter. There are these encouraging advertisements which would result in changing of the ideology, and I've seen that now dowry is not taken as seriously as before. People seldom care about it, especially the actual groom. His family or his mother or his sister might consider dowry or count dowry, but I've seen good men also, the modern men, perhaps they are moving abroad also, they don't need this furniture and electronics, but they believe that they would do it by themselves. Okay, maybe the percentage of such people would be less in our society, because we are still not a developed nation. But moving from these problems which seems to be solvable, there are some top taboo issues related to serious problems of the women which are not talked about. Okay, but these days, because of the social media, because of more technology, because of more access to other resources, people have started talking about this, right? You must have heard about period poverty. We never heard those terms, but these are under real discussion in the African continent. Okay, even in India, right? And this would not be irrelevant here to mention that there are more villages in India, and some of the villages in Pakistan also, where they do not have toilets. Okay, imagine women do not have their personal space and they have to go in the open air, so they wait for the dusk time and then the dawn time when it's a little dark outside, and then they don't have any other way, right? So these are some taboo issues that we never knew as people living in the urban areas and maybe having access to all the resources of, or all our needs are being met. We never knew what is happening to the women outside in other countries, in maybe in Africa, in India, in poor countries, or even among the poor population in our countries. So it is through the media, it is through the discourses that we get to know these. And till we do not get to know these, till we do not realize that these are problems, okay, we would not be able to solve this, right? And as we referred to the case of abortion, as we referred to the marriage, still because of the patriarchy, because of our culture, because of our traditions, perhaps because of the religion, most of the marriages are decided by the men. Okay, now even the arranged marriages, there is less saying of the women in it. More of is decided by the elder. By elders we mean the men of the family, and this is happening, right? Things are culturally changing also. Previously we had a system of what do you call that? In English it is called as bride price. Some of the it is still being practiced in some of the cultures, that they take money in exchange of their girls. So the culture is not as popular as it used to be. Okay, so this is also kind of changing ideology. Then the girls were exchanged for murders and given to other families in marriage. So this culture we still see today. Imagine in 21st century, a girl is being given because the man in her family murdered someone in the other family, right? This is still in practice. And this can come as a surprise for many, but it's still in practice. Let's see what Humaira has to say. Yes, Humaira.
Ma'am, I want to say that yes, ideologies are changing and it is fluid, but time, like it takes time. One of the things which was common few years back, that buying financial medical seats was for boys only, not for girls. It was common assumption that girls will go to other homes, so why money is going to be wasted. But nowadays, this common assumption is changing, that the people, they are buying financial medical seats for girls as well. So, and one more thing which Saima has highlighted, that nowadays the people, they are raising their voices against the defense budget. And I think that the opportunity is given by that scenario which is made, that Colonel KBV, this give the opportunity to people to raise their voice against this defense budget. Yes, people have this thing in mind that it should be considered in assembly, but this scenario has given more opportunity to people to raise their voice openly, and a lot of means have been made against this defense budget when it was not considered and voiced in assembly.
Yes, that's right. Okay, Baht wants to say something. Baht, I'm unmuting you. Yes, Baht.
The changing of discourse, the changing of ideology is seen in our own area, rural areas, showbiz, rural area, right? In
Okay.
this area, the women were once जब शादी होती थी तो उसके लिए वल्लुआ लिया जाता है, but this changed. जब शादी होती है तो वो कहते हैं ससुराल में लड़की वाले होते हैं, वो कहते हैं जितनी दे वो आप लोग, हम जो है बस जो चाह दे देंगे, बाकी जो भी है आप छीनना चाहे जो है changed in.
Okay, Bakht, I got what you said, the crux of it, but you were not really clear, and I can understand that there are some serious problems in your connectivity also. Fine, I got you. Yes, Saima. Yes, Saima, do you want to say something? No, Saima's got offline. Okay. Now let's continue with the with our topic and what Lazar has to say about FCDA. Now, I have told you that, whatever we have discussed, whatever we have talked about right now, these are not simple issues, okay? These are complex working of power and ideology, right? And what is the aim of such discourses? They actually sustain the hierarchy. It is only to maintain the hierarchy. Looking at the ads, maintaining the hierarchy. Be it the creams, be it the cosmetics, be it the dowry issues, be it the electronics, be it the issues of highlighted issues of women's right over their own body, overall talking about patriarchy. Whatever these discourses are, these are basically sustaining maintaining, giving an extension to the hierarchy. Hierarchy is the, you know, social order of the gendered social order. I told you that we talk about social orders in different contexts. They can be a social order in the race also, they can be a financial social order, they can be social order according to the status of the people. But when we talk about feminist critical discourse analysis, basically we are talking about the hierarchy where men is ahead of the women, or men is superior to the women. A hierarchy means a ladder is maintained, okay, in the gendered social order. So what is the aim of these gender discourses? Basically to perpetuate the status quo, to maintain the status quo. What kind of status quo? The gendered social order, hierarchy, to maintaining the hierarchy, gendered hierarchy, so that it is not challenged. Now, what FCDA does is it challenges, it questions this hierarchy. It questions the misuse of power. Okay, so CDA and FCDA, in the next slide we'll see what are the similarities between CDA and FCDA. So both of these look at the inequality in the society. Okay, Mariam Shah says, in Pashtuns, the man's family wants that the girl should be fat and good in making big roti. That also needs to be questioned. Yes, you know, it's good to hear that someone has a different criteria of beauty. Otherwise, obesity is no criteria for beauty. But that's wonderful. But because being fat is equivalent to being healthy, perhaps that's why they look for the fat girls. Otherwise, okay, fat looks beautiful also. Okay, do not start debating in the chat section. People have different standards also, and that really depends on the culture and the tribes. All of the Pashtuns are not from one tribe. They have a number of tribes, so there can be variation in their cultures also. But I have heard, this is a very common perception. This is a very common perception that fat is healthy. So the girl, because she's brought in the family for certain purposes that needs the women to be very, very healthy, right? So that's why they look for a fat girl. Otherwise, the beauty standards that are given by the media is that of a very slim girl. The slimmer, the better. And that is why all the models that are shown to you are very, very slim. Okay, don't get into any of the arguments in the chat section. It's okay. People can share their, you know, what they absorb. And I've heard this. This is a very popular perception, but this has to do not with the obesity of the girl, but with the health of the girl. Okay. Now, this FCDA, feminist critical discourse analysis, is applicable. I've already told you on text, talk, and I told you as we talk about multimodality in FCDA. So text takes a lot of things in it, and I have shown you a picture as an example. There were colors, there were pictures, there were text, everything at the same time. The text was in different fonts also, and I'll get that for a detailed analysis as well. So FCD is applicable on text and talk, and it offers correctives to approaches that primarily favor one linguistic mode over another, right? So FCD actually tries to correct things as far as the discourses are concerned. And while we were talking about change in discourse and change in ideology, so we also talked about how corrections are being done. This is how corrections can be done in discourses. Okay. For instance, the picture that I've shown you, it can show women to be a business women. Okay. It can show a steward also, because in the airplanes, there are not just air hostess, there are stewards also who happen to be the male host. Okay, but the picture shows you the popular kind of a discourse, which is more acceptable. Okay. Otherwise, when you see a woman as a business a woman or someone who's doing business, so that looks really strange to us, right? And when we see steward in the airplane, that also looks strange to us, right? So this is how FCDA tries to take some corrective measures. Okay. Now, just wait. Okay. Now, what are the similarities between CDA and FCDA from the discussion that we have done so far? I would like you to, raise your hands. Let's not put it in the chat. Okay, anyone other than these girls, Saima, Humaira, Bakht? What are the similarities between CDA, between CDA and FCDA? Any new hands? I would like to see some new hands. Though the hand icon is similar for everyone, but I would like to see some new hands raised. Humaira is an old hand. Okay, let's listen to Bakhtawa. She has spoken less and she's with us for lesser time also due to connectivity issues. Yes, Bakht. Yes, Bakht, do you want to say something?
Ma'am, between there are ma'am.
Mm-hmm. Is anyone else able to listen to Bakht, or is there a problem at mine? But I would like you to, answer me in chat. There's a lot of distortion. There are problems at your end. Okay, who else other than Simon? Where is Uzma today? I'm trying to recall some voices from my December classes. Bakht is not audible. It's just not me, but Bakht is not audible to the rest of the people also. Okay, I'm putting this question in. Okay, Uzma has some connectivity issues. Right. Okay, who's giving us an answer? Okay, Sadia is the new hand here. Yes, Sadia, I'm unmuting you. Yes, Sadia.
Ma'am, the difference between CDA and FCDA is that we studied that CDA is also a method or a theory for analysis. So FCDA is also a method or a philosophy to, analyze some counter discourses like women empowerment and patriarchal issues and marginalized women. So somehow in this perspective, they are same, that they are analyzing these philosophies through counter discourses of
Mm-hmm.
of patriarchal issues and women empowerment, women who look down upon and their status is being marginalized. So this is a similar, maybe this is a similarity between both of them,
Yeah,
FCDA and CDA.
yes, you're right. Yes, Humaira. Yes, Humaira, you may unmute.
Ma'am, I'm audible.
Yeah. Continue.
CDA and the similarities in CDA and FCDA is that both uncover the inequality. CDA sees the discourse as socially
Fine.
constructed, and all the inequalities, all the inequalities that is in ideologies, in discourses, these all are uncovered by CDA, and FCDA is doing the same. But in FCDA, the perspective which is also included, that is the feministic perspective. They
That's wonderful.
it these it is also critically analyzing the discourses, the highlighted discourses, the socially constructed discourses, but also the perspective of feministic perspective is also involved.
Fine. Fine. That's good. Okay, Saima, I'll take you after Mariam. Okay, Mariam, you may unmute yourself.
Ma'am, both CDA and FCDA encounters the social standards.
Is that it? Okay, fine.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Saima.
Ma'am, CDA and FCDA both speak about the marginalized people or the discriminations in society, but FCDA particularly deals with the problems of the women and marginalized women. That is the similarity between the both talks about discriminations and about marginalized people, but the difference only here is that FCDA only or particularly talks about the problems and the discriminations against such discourses which are against women, and there are a number of novelists, journalists, and anchors that debate this issue, or they write such stories or produce such kind of articles which counter the discourses which are against women. And the other the general CDA that produces which are against all the discrimination, like the social class discrimination and many other kinds of discrimination.
Fine, fine. Sadi, you have answered, I guess. Okay. Do you want to say something new? Okay, Sadia.
Ma'am, I want to say something new. Like CDA and FCDA, they both deals with the dominant discourses, like all the social practices or the social rules which is practiced by people practically in our society, like the working women. They are not the working women were not encouraged in the past, but now they are encouraged. So they are dealing with some social practices and along with some dominant discourses like patriarchy and
Okay, fair enough. That's okay. Now, since FCDA is a branch of CDA, right? So both of these take a critical perspective on unequal social arrangement. And one more thing before I forget, Salma has used the word against women, right? Discourses, we do not see that discourses are particularly against women. They put women in an unequal position, and this happens very subtly. This does not happen very explicitly. See, the advertisement that I have shown you, how many people would take a minute to see what's wrong in the advertisement? Because when we use the word against, you know, they are not explicitly abused in such discourses that needs to be challenged, but we need to look at the discourses critically and try to find out how women are portrayed and how they are placed in an unequal standing with the other gender. Okay, so basically, we just look at the subtle things in the discourse that are communicated implicitly, right? And those usually go unnoticed. If something is said against women, that would be very, very explicit. Everyone would know that this discourse talks something, against women. But against isn't the proper word. And it is not talk, the discourse that FCDA actually targets, it's not against women, but it subtly placed women in an inferior position, let's put it this way. As in the examples that we have already discussed, the picture that I showed you and the example that you discussed with me, right? So the basic similarity between CDA and FCDA is both have a critical perspective, okay? And they have a critical perspective about the unequal arrangement in the society, which is sustained through the language use, right? Now, we, as practitioners of critical discourse analysis, we look at social practices also, which are the result of the discourse, but the focus remains on the use of the language and the discourse itself. Okay, of course, the use of the language is also part of the discourse. So both CDA and FCDA are critical perspectives on unequal social arrangement, which is sustained through discourse or through the use of language, right? And the goals of critical discourse analysis and FCDA are truly similar. Both aim at social transformation. They want to change the society, because you know, it's just not about changing the discourses, right? The aim of changing the discourses is social transformation. The results should be reflected in our social practices, okay? Like Humaira shared, people are spending money on their daughter's education now. Otherwise, previously it was only boys getting educations and girls getting trained as at household chores, okay? And they were skilled in different kind of works, like the kitchen work, like the cooking and cleaning and all that kind of stuff. And the boys were supposed to be educated because it was thought that it would only be boys who need to earn, right? And it is just not about you know, change of discourses, it is about the change of overall economic system also. And that has changed more in Europe, and people need to find out solutions for that. So we are also following. The life is becoming expensive, okay? Now there is an understanding among the people of the society that women need to earn too in order to support the family. It's just not that men would be the breadwinners these days, okay? So all of these, I told you that CD is in an interdisciplinary domain, okay? It is multidisciplinary, it is interdisciplinary, it is interrelated. So many fields get interrelated, just not the discourses, it's economics also, it's politics also, it's the use of language also, it's psychology as well. So the changing economic system has changed the discourses and of course the social practice, but to some extent still we see that many women do not work. Parents are not educating their daughters, okay? But then the trend has improved, and at times the thought of the parents for educating their daughters is to, they would earn but in bad times, in rainy days, okay? So if something goes wrong in their life, so they would be on their own feet. Sometimes this becomes the objectives of parents while they educate their daughters. Many a times, and this is now happening as we have seen examples also of these 5 daughters who were always got encouragement from their parents, from their families, to accomplish whatever they want to, or to join fields that were supposed to be the fields of men before, okay? And we have already discussed that there used to be just 2 fields for women, but now we see women working in many fields. Even in Pakistan, they are in the army also. We see women working in the Air Force. We see women in bureaucracy. We see women working in police. So opportunities are being created for them, and this is happening because of the changing mindset of the people. In other words, the changing ideology. Okay. Okay, Rahila has to say something about the similarities. Who is this Hawavi? Please change your name so that I know who you are. Of course, I know your cell phone more than you. I know which set you are carrying, but I'm more interested in you. Some people have got on offline also. Okay. Right. So, so the goal is common of CDA and FCDA, and that is social transformation. Okay, not just discourse transformation. Discourse transformation is just one step. Okay, challenging the discourses, producing counter discourses, but the actual target of both CDA and FCDA, which takes a number of years, and that happens to be the result of discourses, right? So both have the same goals of social transformation, emancipation, right? Emancipation of the marginalized population, be it a marginalized race, be it a minority, be it the gender, be it the other class of people. So emancipation is the goal. Social transformation is the goal, right? And these are the cornerstones of both critical discourse analysis and FCDA, okay? And many of the feminist language studies previously also. It's just not, FCDA. We are going to look at that other branches of FCD also within linguistics. We are going to talk about it also. For instance, the book that I have sent you is Feminist Stylistics. Basically, it's FCDA, a part of FCD. Then there is Feminist Pragmatics also. And we look at some of other branches too. So FCDA is a part of CDA, but it is extended. It is again subdivided into a number of other branches, right? Okay, now let's talk about what is the concern of CDA. We have discussed the goal of CDA, what CDA does or what FCDA does. FCDA and CDA does similar things. It's only that FCDA's focus remains on issues of women and those issues which are sustained by the use of language, okay, and which needs to be challenged at the level of the discourse, right? So the main concern of FCDA is to critique the discourses which sustain patriarchal social order, right? We have not discussed patriarchy as a system of the society or as a system of in a culture or as a family system, okay? But whatever we have discussed, whatever puts the women in an inferior position at the receiving end, whatever is expected of them, this all comes under patriarchy. Patriarchy, see, as far as sociology are concerned, there are two systems of the society, or there are two family systems. One is patriarchy, one is matriarchy. Patriarchy isn't bad and matriarchy is okay. What is the general definition of patriarchy and matriarchy? Patriarchy is when the woman is the head of the family, and matriarchy is when the woman is the head of the family, patriarchy when men is the head of the family. So there is nothing wrong. There has to be a head of the family. There has to be head of the tribe. There has to be someone who should be the head. But the problem starts when the one in the superior position exploits or misuse power, okay? He or the system becomes unjust to the weaker population or to the weaker people in that particular system. So patriarchy becomes a problem then. Otherwise, in sociology, there are simple definitions, and when we say that there is patriarchal system, it is a belief that more responsibilities would lie with men, okay, and less responsibilities would lie with the women. So it should be a fairer system, but this is not happening. There is misuse of power. Now, there are some of the villages in Pakistan where women work in the fields, okay, and men do absolutely nothing. Women are working in the field, they're working at home, they're doing everything. Still, there is patriarchy because men are more powerful. Men has the authority over women's body, over women's money, over women's property, despite the fact that she is working more than men, right? So here patriarchal systems become problematic, right? Otherwise, if there is a fair patriarchy, men can take more responsibilities. Good enough. Okay, good for women, right? I don't know if you can bring religion here, but if the responsibilities go as the religion has told us, that's very fair. Men are more responsible. God has made them more responsible for the family, right? They have to earn, and they have to do everything for the sustenance of the family. They have to look after everything, right? But then patriarchy becomes a problem when it leads to unjust social gender hierarchy. Okay, so the concern of FCDA is to critique those discourses which try to sustain this patriarchal social order. Which kind of patriarchal social order? Where there is asymmetry of power relations. I told you that patriarchy becomes a problem when it privileges men as a social group and disadvantage, exclude, and disempower women as a social group, right? When the society under patriarchy gets divided into two genders, and these terms of men and women are talked about in as absolute terms, in totalizing terms, which through its discourses and social practices, it actually systematically, in a very organized way, in very subtle ways that we do not even notice, this patriarchal system privileges men as a social group. It includes men as a social group, and it disadvantages, it excludes, it disempowers women as a social group. Okay. Now, can you give me an example from discourse of women being excluded? Women exclusion from the discourse. Let me put this question in the chat also. Give me an example of women exclusion from the discourse. Oh, I sent the message to Mena. Let me send it to everyone. Think about, and I would like to see new hands. I hope you are back to studies, okay? And we are able to discuss. You have come read. So give me an example of women exclusion from the discourse. Okay, Bakht is raising her hand. Bakht, I cannot hear you actually. Can you put your answer in the chat? Bakht, please put your answer in the chat. Rest of you can raise your hands, okay? You can get the question from the chat so that I don't have to repeat it. and you can answer me here. Okay, now I'm repeating my question also. Give me an example of women exclusion from the discourse. And you don't have to go to find the discourses in Europe or, America. It's very much there. Okay, Sadia Sohail is there. Bakht, I hope you're writing. Just Sadia, just wait. Just hold on. Faryal is unable to listen to me. Faryal, if there are many people who are unable to listen to me, then I need to fix my connectivity issues. But if there are one or two people, then it's the problem at your end. You need to fix it. Okay. Bas says that in marriage decision of a girl or a boy, mostly mother is not asked to decide. Yes, this is true. Father is always there to decide, and it's just not the father, it's the uncle, it's the grandfather, it's uncles, cousins. So all the men would sit together and decide for the marriage. The mother and even the girl are not, they are excluded from these discourses. Good. What other examples do you have? Let me go to, okay. Yes, Adya.
Ma'am, I was thinking the same as Bakht said, that when marriage decision is being, asked, no one asks girls, and decision is taken by the males. And second, in family planning, the girl is never asked for. She's, under the pressure of her husband, and she's never asked. There's no choice of her, so she's simply excluded from this.
Yes, from such discourses. That's
Ji.
good. Yes, yeah, you are right. These marriage discourses, and of course, these are taken as taboo topics to be talked about. So, from any taboo topics, taboos are more for the women, and they are less for the girls. For that reason, but I've read your answer, and you're very much right. And Sadia almost repeated the same. Homera wanted to say something, but she isn't raising her hand right now. Okay. Now, the example I would give you of women exclusion from discourse is obituaries. Aajkal to, there are a lot of obituaries that you see in the newspapers because of the corona. Gulmina says they are not asked about education. Really? Okay. Yes, they are put in the schools and they're not even asked about their education. Right. Anyway, you must have seen obituaries. Do you know what are obituaries? Okay, let's go to Humera. She's there. Yes, Humera.
I want to give the example of obituaries. I was about to say, but you have given this example of obituary, that the name of woman is not mentioned in the newspaper, but all her her husband, her father, her all the uncles, they all are written there. Like the husband name is written over there, but the name of woman is absent. So this is also one of the example of exclusion of women.
Yes, that's good. Yes, I was about to give you the same example of obituaries. You are seeing an increased number of obituaries these days in the newspaper because of this pandemic. So, she's born unnamed and she dies without any identity. It happens throughout her life also. In the marriage cards, you must have seen the name of the groom is there, but the name of the bride is not there. Instead, she is identified through her father, okay, and through her brothers. But she remains without an identity throughout her life, okay. And when she dies, still she's not identified. She is identified through her male relatives, okay. There might be 10 names written on her death, but she is, she's not there, and you are lost who has actually died. There are so many names that you cannot figure out who died. So this is women's absence, right? It's just not she's absent from the consent to marriage, but she's absent in the invitation also. And then in the older practices, it was Mrs. someone. After the marriage, she's identified through her husband. Before marriage, she's identified through her father. Okay. We are also going to talk about these address terms, because we do not use Mrs. any longer. We use Miss instead. Right? Because there had been debates, and we will discuss in detail also. The address term for men remains the same, whether married or not married. But why is it important for a woman to reveal her marital status through Miss or Mrs.? So in changing of these discourses as a result of FCDA practices, we have now come with a neutral term, Ms. As for Mr., you cannot know the marital status. The marital status is not revealed through Mr. Similarly, the marital status is not revealed through Ms. Okay, so these seems to be little transformations, but these are transformations. Other than that, till now I have not come across any transgender studies conducted by FCDA, but FCDA would look at that also, right? Because trans are also the marginalized gender, and that's a gender issue that leads to social issues also. So these would be covered under FCDA. Okay. Right. Let me check if there is something in the chat, and then we move on discussing the concern. Sadaf Akram is unable to listen to. Okay. If I'm not audible to you, Sadaf, you need to fix something at your end. There are some connectivity issues. Mariam says girl's surname also gets changed. Yes. This is what I was discussing, that she is given a name which is changed after the marriage. Okay. There are some, there are some few things related to the religion as far as changing of name is concerned, but since I do not have the reference, so it should not be shared. But this is not really encouraged. Changing of names is not really encouraged. That happens to be a social practice of girls changing their name. And right now I have seen a different kind of practice. I've seen girls not changing their names. Okay. For a reason that they have this name in their degrees also, so it becomes problematic sometimes to change their names, and then it doesn't match in the ID card, in the passport, and the degrees. So this is one of the reasons, but there are cases where girls do not change their name, but the popular practice is of changing the name after the marriage. Okay, even in on the Facebook pages also, right? Okay, now we are talking about the concerns of FCDA. So basically it criticizes, or it critically looks at, it critiques the discourses which sustain patriarchal social orders, and which actually systematically privilege one gender over another. It includes one gender, exclude the other one. Advantages one gender, disadvantages the other one. Empower one gender and disempower the other gender, right? Now, these discourses, they show complex and subtle ways in which taken for granted social assumptions and hegemonic power relations are discursively produced. While we are talking about, gender inequality, we call it as hegemonic power relationship. We talk about hegemony also, or hegemony, the way you can pronounce it either way. What is hegemony, by the way? Okay, what is hegemony, by the way? Yes, Faria, what is hegemony? Faria is there, Fayal is there, but they're not talking. What is hegemony from your, background knowledge of CDA? Who else know about hegemony? What is hegemony? These gendered power relationship are also hegemonic. Is Humaira and Sadia and Saima would take the paper instead of all of you? But see, the performance is similar in the offline classes and in the online classes. Okay, Shaheen is saying something correct, but please learn to raise your hand when I ask you to raise your hand so that I know how many people know that. Chat is, for Bakht only because we are unable to listen to her. She's not audible and she answers correctly, power by one's own wish. Yes, Humaira, what do you want to say? Let's go to Humaira. Yes, Humaira.
Ma'am, hegemony is power by consent. When we accepted the power by someone, when the people are they are ruling us, and we accept this thing. We have discussed the example. You have highlighted the example in the previous class. When the police stop us at the road, we just stop because we accept this thing that when he is going to stop us, there is something wrong. That is why we stop, and this is hegemony. This is the example of hegemony.
Yes, that's good. That's good, Humaira.
And
Yeah.
patriarchy, we also accepted patriarchy in our society. Nowadays the ideologies are changing, but we have accept this thing that yes, a woman is a second sex. Yes, a woman, and one more thing where you have highlighted that after the marriage, girls, they have changed their name, or many girls they have not, but many girls, they change their name by their own wish. They want their husband name to be with their name. So this is also I think so this is also hegemony, because there is a ruling on us.
Yes, there is total submission.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Yes, Adia, what do you want to say?
Ma'am, hegemony is power by consent. When we are willing to give power, when we are willing that someone would control us, and we allow somebody, some authority to control us, and it shows our willingness, our own choice. Like in our home, we accept the patriarchy of our father when he says something to us, and we are fine with it. So this is a power by concern, we are giving and showing our willingness, our own choice, that to somebody, to some class or some power or some patriarchy or some rules to control us and to be dominant over us. So we are fine with it. It shows our willingness.
Yes. Okay, one thing more, when we are talking about patriarchy, let me read some chat. Okay, fine. Now, when we are talking about patriarchy, we do not just go right to our fathers only. They are just, they are beautiful creatures, but we talk overall, we talk about the society, the social setup. Okay. The example of patriarchy, if you want to know if the society is patriarchy, you just go out, you see more men than women outside. Okay, at the workplaces also, in the markets too, in the banks as well. When you have your accounts in the bank, but you will see a lot of men there. Okay, the one who are working, the one who are their clients, because sometimes women also do not go for these things by themselves, they send someone else. Okay, So you see these patriarchal structures, just not about individual examples of fathers or how our homes or houses are run, actually. But when we talk about patriarchy, we talk about the whole society, not uh, certain family structures. Okay, patriarchy is a broad term, right? Now, we call patriarchy as leading to hegemonic power relations, which are discursively produced, and then these are perpetuated through discourses, and FCDA actually challenges those. Okay, and it's only a story of few years. Otherwise, patriarchy always had the hegemonic power. Women already accepted their position. Okay, uh, their uh, their job, their work. They agreed to the work distribution. Okay, they agreed to stay dependent on men. Okay, and this hegemonic power relation is strengthened, is reinforced through women financial dependence on men. Okay, the more women is dependent on the other gender, the more are the chances for exploitation, for inequality, okay, for exercising of power, right? So the gender relationships in a patriarchal society exist through hegemonic power relationships. These power relationships are discursively produced, and we have given ample examples of how patriarchy is seen in discourses. Whatever examples we discussed today, we see it as a part of patriarchy, right? The advertisements, the beauty standards, some serious issues related to the women, the decision that should be their own as an individual, as an independent human being, are taken away from them. They don't have the right to the basic decisions about themselves. This is what patriarchy basically is, right? So what are these discourses doing? These discourses are perpetuating it. And what is FCDA doing? FCDA is trying to challenge these discourses. It is trying to stop its sustenance. It is trying to stop its perpetuation and reinforcement. Okay, so this is the concern of FCDA, right? To critique discourses and to challenge them and to stop them from happening. Whatever is discursively, the power relationship that we see that are discursively being produced, that are being perpetuated through discourse again and again in any way, right? So those should be stopped. Those should be criticized. And these can only be stopped, these can only be challenged when women would realize that something is wrong in the discourse. When we realize that there is no need for a woman to be in ads which are for men's product, right? When we realize that the ads should be different, and we have seen that there are changing discourses, therefore changing ideologies, and we have done the examples of that too. Now, our next concern is why FCDA when CDA is already in place? Why CDA when CDA is already in place? Okay, let's see who's answering us. It's a very simple question. What we have been doing since 2 hours, we are just doing, you know, how, let's put it this way, how CD is different. We saw in the previous slide how FCD is similar to CD. Now we're looking at why CDA, why FCD when CD is already in place. Again, similar hands. Can Faria answer this question? Let me take names now when you are not participating. How do I know that you are listening? You are in the class? Or for the attendance sake, you just, logged in and went out? How would I know when I'm not listening to you? I'm not seeing you in the chat also. Okay, I'll take paper from these two girls then. Yes, Faria.
Ma'am, obviously, the main concern of FCDA is it's all about the women and about the challenges and whatsoever the problem they are facing and in the society. So the main focus of CDA is about that how they are going to challenge them and how they are going to critique upon them.
Okay, fine. I'll take this. Right. Okay, let's go to Humaira. Yes, Humaira.
Ma'am, CD is actually the analysis of wrong beliefs, as we have discussed this thing in the previous class, such as prejudice, unequal distribution of power, such as status quo, unequal access to power, privileges, material resources. All these have been uncovered by the CDA. FCDA is also doing the same thing, but ultimately, particularly, the feministic perspective is also included. Like if we are talking about the challenges, like unequal distribution of power, so the main thing is that we are highlighting women as well in this thing. Unequal access to power, so the main gender is the woman, that how the resources are unequal in this sense, that women, they are suffering and they are suffering from these things. And unequal distribution, like material resources, women, they have not access to resources, they are having no access to power, to information. So this is the FCDA, which is particularly highlighted the women.
That's good. Okay, yes, Hadia.
मैम CDA basically focuses about all the dominant discourses. वो करता है इसको focus all the social practices, power, knowledge और critique भी है एक तरह की, लेकिन वो कहीं पे भी women को highlight नहीं कर रहा है, patriarchy को highlight नहीं कर रहा, वो marginalized women, उनके issues, transgender, उनके issues, उसको कहीं पे वो highlight नहीं करता. So that's why FCDA is important, because since 19th century when women got empowered with the third wave, with the feminism, with the theory of feminism, so women study is important and women voice is important. So that's why FCDA is there to only highlight the issues or the powers or all the discourses happening in such domain of women.
Okay, fine. Okay, Humaira, I'll give you another chance also. I don't know why I'm seeing your hand raised. Anyway, continuing it, why FCDA when CDA is already there? Now, we have done fair class to an extent. We will resume it. Okay, we have done Venn die. We are going to talk about Foucault. We'll look at Wodak. But all of these theorists of CDA, they have their multiple focuses, but we have not heard them separately about talking about the issues of gender, okay, gender inequality. They might have referred to it only. So Lazar felt that there within CDA there is a need to establish a distinctly feminist politics of articulation, okay, taking a feminist perspective in CDA and analyze discourses, gender discourses from a critical feminist perspective. And how to do that, what to do when we are looking from a critical feminist perspective is to look for the oppressive nature of gender as a category which is present in our social practices. Okay, so FCDA focuses on feminist politics of articulation, right? It looks at critical feminist perspective. It looks at the discourses through critical feminist perspective, and it critiques the oppressive nature of gender, and it takes gender as a category in social practices. Okay, it's a separate category. The Lazar says that gender is a separate social category and it needs to be addressed within CDA, and it needs to be established as a distinctly feminist politics of articulation. Okay, Raila Vase has to say something. There is male dominance everywhere in this side, fine. Okay, right, got it. So CDA is there, but there you have noticed that Fairclough hasn't talked about gender. Van Dijk hasn't talked about gender. They might have talked about the immigrant issues, they might have talked about racism, they have talked about the minorities also. So Lazar had a feeling that it is necessary to establish within CDA feminist politics of articulation, and critical feminist perspectives should be built to critique discourses which shows the oppressive nature of gender and which shows gender as a social category in social practices, right? Okay. Now, what is the traditional gender ideology? Let's move to the traditional gender ideology. By traditional gender ideology, we see a hierarchical order in gender as far as the power relationship is concerned. We see one as dominated, the other is as subordinated. And Lazar believes that it is similar, and it is talked about in similar terms as we talk about Black people and white people. Okay, as we talk about rich and the poor, right? So it has become a culture norm that these two are always paired up. Okay, in the beginning of the lecture we discussed George Floyd case of racism. So whenever blacks are discussed, they are discussed with the whites, okay, or in comparison to the whites, or whites are discussed, they are discussed in comparison to the blacks. Working class is discussed with the rich people, right? So it has become a culture norm for each working class individual to be paired with the middle class or the rich class, for every Black person to be paired up for life with a white person. So the traditional gender ideology is to pair men with women, right? Always talking women in terms of men. As I told you that women identified with men. Their works, their jobs, their job description is already decided in relation to one another. If one thing is can be done by men, this cannot be done by women. Like it is acceptable for women to cry, so it would not be acceptable for men to cry. Okay, it is more acceptable for men to work outside, so women should not work outside. It is the women's job to raise kids, so men would not participate in the process, right? So there is a clear demarcation between the two, and the two would be always talked as comparing with one another. So the traditional gender ideology remains as it is for the races, as it is for the social classes in the society. So people are always divided into two: working class and the middle class. The working class or the rich people, blacks and the whites. Okay, and similarly, this also comes as a category: men and the women. Right? guys sending me this problem in the chat that you are unable to hear me. What should I do? If you are the person who is unable to hear, listen to me, and majority of the girls are able to hear me. So, you know, you need to fix it at your end. It's a trouble, of course. I realize that that's a problem, but then you have to fix it. Okay, right? So the gendered, the traditional gender ideology remains the same. It is always in comparison, right? As in race, as in social class, etc. Okay. Now moving to the next thing. The gendered nature of social practices, these can be described on two levels. Now gender is gender functions as a category, and it's an interpretive category. Interpretive means you can infer from those categories. Whenever these categories are put in front of you, you can differentiate between the two in terms of their works, in terms of their identity, in terms of their inclusion, exclusion, in terms of their silences. All of that comes to your mind. This is the interpretive category that you can infer. So it enables participants in a community to make sense of and structure their particular social practices, right? So gender has become a social category that is related to social practices, and that actually tells you about what to expect from one gender and what to expect from another gender, right? And that also tells you what kind of a society we are, how patriarchal we are. Most of the societies are patriarchal. That is why it is said that this is men's world. But to what extent a society is patriarchal, and that is important to discuss, and that is important to interpret, and that is revealed through the social practices. Okay, so basically the gender is a category, but besides being a social category, it is an interpretive category that leads to social practices. Okay. I think if you have done the course of language and gender in sociolinguistics, I do not know how many of you have attended sociolinguistics, because language and gender is one of the topics in sociolinguistics. Now what happens is, the differentiation, the social differentiation starts when the child is born, and she or he is identified through her gender. It's about the name. It starts from the naming practices. Okay, what name would be chosen, and then it comes to the dresses also. And then you must have noticed that girls can wear boys' dresses. They can wear penchants, but boys are discouraged to wear girls' dresses. Girls can play with cars. Girls can play with guns, because there's a differentiation in the choice of toys also. Okay, what are the expected games and toys and plays of the two genders? So girls can play boys game also, right? They can play with guns, they can play with car, but this seems a little strange to us if the girls like to have guns, and I have not seen many baby girls or girls to have a liking for guns and cars. Okay, but it is not permissible for a boy to play with a doll. It is rather discouraged. I'm talking about our culture, that it is rather discouraged for a boy to play with the dolls. And sometimes I've seen families to be happy if a boy destroys the doll of her sister. Okay, they do not have a problem with it, because playing with the doll is bad, but destroying the doll is fine. That's a manly habit, right? So the differentiation and the expectations starts from the very beginning, and therefore we say that gender is a social construct also, right? Sex is a biological construct. Gender we define as a social construct. Society construct genders. Society starts telling you its expectations that you have to fulfill in your likes and dislikes, also in selection of your dresses and selection of your toys from a very early stage on. And that goes on till you select a profession for yourself. Okay, and even beyond that. That is why it's an interpretive category that gives you a sense of structure and social practices in that particular society, right? So it's a social category. Gender happens to be socially constructed. It's a social category, and at the same time, it's an interpretive category as well, right? Now, secondly, gender is a social relation that enters into and partially constitute all other social relations and activities, as I have given you example. It's an interpretive category, therefore it constitutes all our social relations, all our activities. Once the society tells us that, you know, we are girls or someone is a boy, we start acting so as to come up to the expectations. Okay, and it enters into all our social relations, into all our activities. For instance, when girls are growing up, they are told that they cannot be loud. Okay, Lenoma, I can listen to your baby also. Please mute yourself. Okay, so the girls are told not to speak loudly. The boys are not told so. The girls are told to be not to be out of the house after dark, or even they need permission to go out, and they should be out with someone to accompany them, a brother or father or someone. So all of these is told to them, and it enters into their social activities. Then that's a different debate. How do we provide protection to our girls, which might not be needed to boys, which is incorrect in these times. But anyway, the brought up of girls and the boys is very different, more different in our society than maybe in the European societies, but we start behaving accordingly. Okay, we choose our career, or our family chooses our career accordingly. Other activities also should be, you know, gender related. So this is how the gendered nature of social practices can be described. Okay, gender as an interpretive category that gets entered into all our activities, right? Abusive language is not for the girls, right? They should talk softly. They should walk decently. The way they should carry themselves, all of these become a part of their social practices, because they are trying to meet the expectations of the society that they are part of, right? Okay, the next question we have already answered. How is gender ideology hegemonic, right? Gender ideology is hegemonic because most of the domination remains unnoticed, right? It does not appear as domination at all. And most part of this domination is acceptable, is consensual, okay, in most of the communities, right? This is how gender ideology is hegemonic. It happens with our consent. And by consent, it doesn't mean that, you know, a woman agrees to be beaten up, or a woman agrees to domestic abuse, but how it is, you know, the consent is such that it is very subtle. It is accepted. It is not questioned. It is not challenged. Even it is not noticed. And as far as FCDA is concerned, it is not noticed in the discourses also. Have you noticed that recently we have started to come across news related to domestic violence or beating of women or workplace harassment, these things were happening previously also, okay? But now they have started to be noticed. This is, women have decided that this is not a thing that should be left unnoticed, right? So now they want to change this hegemony, which is surrounded around the gender, okay? So they want to change the gender ideology as hegemonic. It should not be hegemonic. It should not be consensual, right? So this is how the discourses would change, because we call it hegemonic because it goes unnoticed. It seems to be happening with the consent of the women, which might not be true in many of the situations, in many of the societies. But now what is happening with the help of FCD and with many other feminist movements is all of these are happening since ages, because the human society remains the same, because all are humans at all times. What has changed now is things being challenged, things being noticed, things being questioned, right? The dominance is now being questioned, okay? So I am leaving the class with a question that how feminism or FCDA is related to capitalism, okay? How FCD is related to capitalism, or how feminist issues are related to the corporate sector. Let me put it in the chat, and then I think we are done. We'll have our next class on Monday, and we'll start from here. Just wait. नजमा, आपको मेरी आवाज इसलिए नहीं आ रही क्योंकि मैं perhaps I'm not speaking. I'm just putting something on the chat. How is FCDA related to capitalism? You will be answering me this question next time when we start the class. And for the next class, if you have not read the first chapter from Lazar's book, please read that chapter. If anyone wants to say anything about today's class, you may raise your hands. Other than that, I would like you to give me ideas for your midterm. Okay, of course your midterm cannot be on Monday. There's just a day between this Saturday and Monday. So let me check if I can conduct your midterm next Monday. But you can always give me ideas how you would like to have your midterm. Right? Reflect on this topic, read the chapter. I would be happier if you read the second chapter also. We will have another class on CDA on Monday. I'll tell you the time. Probably I would take the class in the morning, but I need to check. If I have my morning classes, then I also need to check if Humaira has her class, right? Because she's also teaching online. So we'll discuss that also. I'll stop this recording, and this recording would be available on your LMS by evening. So those who missed the recording for any reason, or missed the class for any reason because they were getting disconnected, or they are living in other parts of Balochistan, so the recording is for them, right? Here the recording stops.